This is Ed, and today I'm in Paris, France, and it's raining. And the rain in Spain is okay for that plane, but here in Paris, it's drippy wet in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. Our special guest today is CHRIS EXLINE, coming to us live from Ukraine. Congratulations to staying alive.
Well, it's for those of us in Western Ukraine, it's not that difficult, and but it is horribly tragic for those on the front lines. And what you
Yeah, and
see,
I read it every day. I see it, and it's just, I mean, horrific. And yet the guy keeps walking around smiling. Mr.
yeah.
P. Yeah, so that's got to end. That's for sure.
Well, I'll make a post tomorrow, but I think you saw that I was there last on Thanksgiving. I was with those troops down on the front lines,
I did see something there. Yeah.
yeah. And so, I left Kiev to go down to the front lines to deliver mattresses. And, it was one of those things there's this beautiful church in a city called Dnipro that asked us and informed me that these troops were sleeping on the ground. They didn't even have mattresses. And she asked if I would pray about it. I said, I don't need to pray about it. We'll just go ahead and grant that. And so I said, there's only one caveat, one condition, that I deliver them in person. And no one could understand why. And I said, well, that's part of what we do. And I said, another reason is that these men are fighting, like Israel, waking up every morning, defending its right to just exist. What type of people, what type of nation has to wake up every morning and defend its right to exist? And so, I get down, and also I think you'll see tomorrow that for every mattress we deliver now, we have these orphan children create a greeting card for them. And so every mattress has a greeting card from these 3 to 6 year olds. It's just one of the most beautiful things that I've ever been able to do. They have a personalized message for each troop, thanking them for defending the nation, asking them to keep their courage, keep up their strength, and it really is quite moving. So I got down there. It was actually the first time many of these people had ever seen an American, and they were just pretty much confused and struck why I would drive or travel almost 18 hours to just visit them in person and hand over those mattresses.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions being a cub reporter here. So did you drive? You just said that, or did you have an escort?
It was for clarity. I was not on the front line. They offered to go there, but at the end, it would have been putting them in more danger. It would have just been something for me to say, "Oh, look at me, I've done it." So I was. They sent some of the men in their battalion with trucks, and I met them about 20 kilometers, say about 12 miles from the actual front line.
Well, Chris, this is really amazing, and I really applaud what you're doing. And I think that it's, I don't want to bore you, but I think it's heroic. So let me ask you a question about the mattresses. Do they have a waterproof cover?
Well, but they do now. So we have our fantastic mattress covers here, and these are in stores now. Quite popular with the people. Okay, so we're putting these actually in stores now, and it's the mattress cover is something that we're quite proud of here at Home Essentials for having invented and getting a patent for it. Thank you.
Really kudos, and I want the world out there. We have a large audience of this program in the coming weeks and months following today's original broadcast. It is December 4, and here in Paris, it's just after 11 a.m., And what time is it in Ukraine?
We're an hour ahead, so I'm an hour in your future.
Yes, I'll be there. I don't know whether you recall Tony Weiss from Paris in the relocation destination services business for a long time with executive relocations and then some other firms. His account, major account with Blizzard Entertainment, Activision.
Okay.
I think he's still involved in that all these years later. Anyway, he's now the Paris manager of a big company called AGS
Yes.
worldwide. So he and I are having lunch at Durmago, and Joanne is accompanying me here on the trip. And we're going to talk about an April in Paris live conference, also virtual. And maybe if you're in the world of Paris or nearby, you come by. But if not, that's okay. I will be doing a live meeting in Texas, likely Dallas, but the date is not final yet. I'll keep you informed in case you happen to be that way. We'd love to have you on our stage on our program live so you could talk to everybody, but this way works fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And you've been on our program half a dozen or more times already. And the early reports, I'll call it a report that you give from Ukraine, are cheery. And you make it seem that way, and you bring enthusiasm and cheer and goodwill and prayer to the people there. And congratulations to you, really.
Well, it's I remember first talking to you about this time last year, and those were the times when we went. There was one time right before Thanksgiving in Ukraine in 2022 that we went 4.5, almost 5 days without water, without power, without heat, and the situation is much better today. Sadly, the operations on the battlefield are not as optimistic. In fact, I'm probably a little bit more pessimistic today than I have been at any time since being involved in Ukraine.
Well, there's unlimited, there seems to be unlimited backing, but there's only so many soldiers.
Well,
And
there's a
and I
shortage
think
of men.
that's a
Yeah,
problem.
there's a shortage of men, and also there's just a shortage of will, and there's a fatigue. One of the things that's actually a bit depressing is that I kind of straddle these various constituencies or communities. One, of course, being in business with the first furniture rental company in Ukraine. That business is actually doing well. We have 2 locations now, and I've announced that we'll have 25 before 2025. But then on the kind of the charity or donation side, I hear from many charities that the donor funds are just evaporated. No one's really contributing anymore, and in some ways I kind of understand that. I mean, they've already given. Many people have already given. You can't keep shaking the same trees again and again. But it's really a conundrum because we're getting more and more demand. And I'm very thankful that we're not donor dependent, because if we were, we sure couldn't be doing this. So I've been self-funding this for about the past 8 or 9 months. It's not because of that. It's just I feel for these various charitable organizations with whom I'm in contact that are trying to get $200 and $300 and $400. There's just not really funds available out there, and I think it does not bode well for Ukraine, because the need and the demands for these types of organizations is even higher today than it was last year.
So let's talk about global funding, global sources. I remember seeing you appear at various functions, dinners, occasions where the World Bank and some other groups have been involved in meetings in Kiev or in Poland. But nothing's going to happen until the war actually stops, ceasefire.
Well, first of all, especially talking about corporate relocation, um, the corporates have just frozen any type of decision about Ukraine. This time last year and 18 months ago, many corporates were trying to figure out what will reconstruction look like, how can they participate, what can they do to help rebuild Ukraine. Nobody's talking about that now, Ed. There's not anybody in corporate relocation that's coming here. And no one's, it's not even, and you're right, no one is even going to think about it until there is some form of ceasefire or victory or capitulation. And so that's worrying. I also, one of those people having lived in China for 27 years, but also being born and raised in the United States, I try to, as well as I do, nothing happens in election year. Nobody is who's running for office or running for president will say, vote for me so that we can continue to, seek victory for Ukraine. So you've got this paralysis based upon, nothing more than just, democratic election realities.
Yeah. Well, okay. So tell us about the furniture business out of Hong Kong and Madrid.
Yeah.
Things are good.
Every place but Paris. the worst performing location I have is Paris. I tell you, it's I'm doing more business in Lisbon than in Paris. But yeah, no, everything at Home Essentials is stable. But again, you and I have been in this industry for almost 30 years. I think that you're hearing it from your people. The corporate relocation business that we had in the late 90s and early 2000s it's never coming back. It'll never resemble that golden era that we had between, I'd say, 1998 and 2008.
Yeah, that was quite really strong. It's still there, but it's quite different and
Yeah.
very, very tech and more or less short term. And increasingly, you go and you stay.
Yeah.
You're not coming back.
Yeah.
Have a life.
Yeah.
Be a global person, and good luck. But
Well, it's
if
just,
you get your skills, if these people get skill development, they'd be very valuable to some companies who actually need that.
but it's just a different dynamic. I mean, we all saw this during the financial crisis of 2008. Starting in 2009, CFOs of all of our major clients started pulling back and cutting, school fees, business class travel for homeward vacations and things like that. So, it's just we're just blessed that we've been in the business for so long and that we have situational dominance so many of the markets where we operate. But it's quite staggering. I mean, to talk about Hong Kong, I mean, golly, I mean, my Home Essentials in Hong Kong used to be the largest. There's 6,000 furniture rental stores on planet Earth. Home Essentials Hong Kong for many years was the number one furniture rental location by a huge measure, by almost anything.
I mean, in
I
terms
did
of
more,
profitability.
everything, the number of pieces of amount of furniture on rent, volume, top line revenue, profitability, everything. And I did more business in the Azores in July than I did in Hong Kong.
Hmm.
And it's not just me. It's not that my fabled customer service deficiencies led to the decline. I mean, my competitors, everybody. I mean, two of my competitors went out of business. So it's just Hong Kong has forever changed. The magic that we had in Hong Kong is forever gone, sadly.
Yeah. And are you in Singapore?
I've got two stores in Singapore.
And I would guess they're doing well.
They're doing all right, yeah. I mean, Singapore, this business where everybody talks about, oh, everybody moved down to Singapore. Well, many people did, but they already had all their own furniture, so it's easy to ship. It's like moving from You mentioned Dallas, moving from Chicago to Dallas, which, I mean, golly, I mean, it seems like everybody in the world's moving to Dallas these days. Yeah. I've never seen, I mean, I have a brother and sister-in-law down there, and my God, there are more people in Dallas, Fort Worth than in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's huge growth. I
Yeah.
remember when I was publishing Texas Bound Relocation Guide back in 1990 or something like that, in Houston bound, and we couldn't get Dallas bound off the ground at the time. So
Well, you
I
were,
gave up.
yeah. Well, it's you know, it's the third. It's about to overtake Chicago as the third largest metropolitan area in the United States.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And now I see that Austin, San Antonio are finally getting together. Of course, growth is just rolling out
Yeah.
between them, but now they're actually investing in a metroplex. Uh, so that's great. Yeah, I was just in New York earlier this week, last week, uh, and I produced my first New York meeting in 4 years, and
Good for
it
you.
it went really well, much to the satisfaction of our host facilitator, Ernst and Young, and it was terrific. And they'll probably be involved in Texas and some other places with me going forward. So that's encouraging and sort of a rebirth. But now that I'm doing a TV talk show idea, virtual meeting, I'm trying to combine them. And so I'll send you the tape of the program we produced this past Thursday in New York,
Perfect.
and
Thanks.
it will look it will look okay. The morning session was only in person, and then we had an informal lunch, and the afternoon was in person and virtual, where we meshed the two together. It had some tech challenges, but it worked okay.
Okay. Good for
So
you.
thank you. This coming Thursday, we're producing the second in the series in London with HSBC hosting, facilitating in their headquarters on Canary Wharf, and it'll be the same format. And so it's interesting here. The streets are decked out with Christmas lights, quite festive, and really loving it. And it's, as I mentioned, it's raining today in Paris, and that means that the whole countryside full of grapes is going to blossom.
Or in China, we say that rain is a signifier of profit.
Well, that's
So
great. Well,
I pray that it's profitable for you in Paris.
yeah, and that Southern California, Las Vegas, and Phoenix survives. This, last winter was a bountiful year of snow in the end, and so it solved the short-term problems. We'll see what happens now. So, Chris Exline, this has really been a fun thing for me to do and really highly informative. So, you opened a home essential store of like pillows and things. What do you call those, that category?
Home decor,
Home decor, that makes sense.
accessories,
Okay.
home accessories.
Is that still
Um,
okay? That's still
it's
profitable?
very well. I'll tell you what's fascinating about the business end is that when you and I first started talking about this, because of our history as a company involved in reconstruction, whether it was in Iraq, Afghanistan, South Sudan, Libya, Djibouti, other places. And that was really our focus. When I realized after the first of the year, February or so, that reconstruction wasn't going to be happening very quickly, I said, "Well, we've got to do something." And so that's when I decided in our little town of Kremenetz to open a store. And so we opened that store on May 1st or April 28th, and it's been surprisingly successful. I would have never been able to script anything like this. And what's happened is, we are the first company in Ukraine to offer interest-free financing. Now, for those of us that have been in the rent-to-own business, or we can remember the birth of the rent-to-own industry in the 60s and 70s, I'm talking about Rent-A-Center, Color Time, Remco, Curtis Mathis. This is the exact same thing. These are good people, and there's a deep distrust of banks in this country. So when we say if something is $1,200, and we just say, pay $100 a month, and we deliver the next day. And so with the referral programs, and as word of mouth has been spreading, we are getting more and more customers every day. And that's what's actually, spurring us on to open up, like I said earlier in the program, 25 stores in Ukraine, in these smaller villages. I mean, Clements is probably a small town for California, like Visalia or Flagstaff, or Modesto, California. These little towns of 20,000 people, and no credit checks, no big forms, just a 2-page agreement. We don't sell the paper to banks. We don't borrow money corporately. We don't borrow money for banks in this process. So it's really resonated with the town.
That's great. So are they souvenirs for people like me, to have a cushion, a foot that says Ukraine or Kremenets on it?
Well, you've already gotten a coffee mug from me
I know, and
in
I use it. Thank you.
I initially thought that the decor items would be most popular, but basically, everything that we're doing is I would say 80% of all of our sales are beds and mattresses, which is what we're famous for in most of the markets that I operate in. And so, using our core competencies in beds and mattresses seems to also resonate with the local customers. So, yeah, we're probably not selling as many cushions or bed sheets, which candles, as we do in other markets. But I'm happy that the beds and mattresses are becoming supply.
CHRIS EXLINE, is a delight to see you thriving and happy and healthy. And I congratulate you again on behalf of our audience, which has grown significantly over the past year. And now this program will go out to everyone. We'll have a reach of more than 100,000, and probably a lot more because of subsequent sends, of which I have no tracking. So I have no idea.
Well, congratulations on your success, Ed, and,
No.
and your tenacity is phenomenal and inspiring. And if people do want to help us out, you can go to restassuredukraine.com. You click on the donate button. We are a 501c3 in the United States, so every dollar donated is tax eligible for a tax deduction. And this is a real war, and the need is real. So anything that people feel so inclined to participate and donate, we covet that.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Please come
you.
back.
All
Thank
right.
you. All right. This is Ed in Paris, in Saint-Germain-des-Prés.
A
And
bientôt.
à bientôt, that's for sure. All right. Thank you very much.
Au
Bye-bye.
revoir, mon ami.
Signing off.
Yeah.